From sunrise to sundown, they toiled under horrible conditions. If someone collapsed from exhaustion or sickness, there was always another ship arriving, another African to take their place. The raw materials harvested through this forced labor were loaded onto ships bound for Europe, where they were processed into finished goods. Cotton was spun into textiles, sugar refined and sold, tobacco cured and packed for European markets. These goods, produced through suffering, fueled industrial expansion and solidified Europe's dominance in global trade. The triangular trade was a machine that turned human lives into commodities. This continuous cycle fueled economies and made fortunes for people who never worked on plantations but benefited from the suffering they created. Governments and financial institutions supported this system at every level. Financial institutions provided loans to merchants, ensuring that ships could be built and stocked. Companies profited by insuring the ships and even the captives themselves, treating them as mere cargo. Laws were written to protect slaveholders, securing their rights to property, and ensuring that the enslaved had no legal recourse, no way to challenge the conditions they endured. How did the Atlantic slave trade devastate Africa for generations? The Atlantic slave trade had a catastrophic impact on Africa. Entire communities were destroyed. Kingdoms collapsed under the pressure of constant warfare. The continent was left weakened, vulnerable to future exploitation by European colonial powers, and economies became dependent on the trade of human lives rather than agriculture or industry. The loss of millions of Africans, particularly young men, created generational damage that can still be felt today. With so many young people taken, the workforce that once supported thriving economies disappeared. Fields were left unplanted. Trades that had been passed down for centuries began to vanish. Communities that had once prospered were forced into cycles of dependency, reliant on European goods in exchange for more humans. The wealth that could have been used to build African empires was instead used to fuel the very trade that was destroying them. Even as the Atlantic slave trade ended, its effects remained. How did the enslaved resist their oppression? From the moment they were captured, resistance was a constant force. Some fought back during the brutal marches to the coast, refusing to be taken. Others tried to seize control of ships during the Middle Passage. These uprisings were met with extreme violence, but they proved one undeniable truth: they would never submit willingly. On the plantations, resistance took many forms. Some slowed their work or found ways to sabotage the system that sought to break them. Others ran, escaping into the wilderness to form hidden communities. The fight for freedom was not just waged with weapons. It was fought with words, with stories, with a refusal to be erased. Olaudah Equiano, an African who survived the Middle Passage and gained his freedom, became one of the most powerful voices against the Atlantic slave trade. His autobiography exposed the cruelty of the system to audiences across Europe, shaking the foundations of those who tried to justify the trade. By the late 18th century, abolitionist movements gained momentum. Freedmen, activists, and allies in Europe and the Americas pushed for change. Laws were challenged, protests erupted. The British Empire outlawed the slave trade in 1807, followed by other nations. But true freedom was still a long battle ahead.
That's a wrap, History Seekers. Catch the full story on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Peace and love.